Hey, I've pulled myself together. You'll be happy to know. Okay, so when we left, we had finished chapter 21. Etienne and Saknas had come to Matt and said, Matt, we want you to come with our tribe. We want you to come on the hunt with us. We don't think your family's coming back. Matt was flattered that they asked him to go on the hunt with them, but so torn because it's now, remember they said like October or November. His family wasn't there. His pa had said, I'll be back around August. Well, it's several months after that now. Matt doesn't want to think about his family not coming. Saknas is just trying to be realistic. Like it just doesn't look like they're going to make it. Something must have happened. Not that they didn't want to come, but something must have happened. Matt doesn't want to admit that yet, and so he says, thank you for asking, but I've got to wait here. My pa trusted me with the cabin, trusted me to take care of it, and that's what I need to do. They'll be here. They're just delayed for some reason, is what Matt's thought process is. So, as you know, I got a little choked up the last chapter. I'm going to try and hold it together for chapter 22. Chapter 21, I think, was the most heart-wrenching. But, okay, so anyway, Matt has said that. But remember at the end of the chapter, Saknas had shaken Matt's hand. But then Etienne just turned and left. He didn't shake Matt's hand, and that hurt Matt's feelings. He thought that they should have had more of a goodbye, and so that kind of has bothered him, that why Etienne did not give him more of a goodbye. All right, so we're on chapter 22. It is on page 115 in your books. So if you're ready, I added one word. I still have our list up from yesterday, and I added the word scorn up there, which means kind of looking at harshly or kind of getting after somebody, a look of scorn, kind of like, what are you doing? All right, chapter 22. Teeth are brushed. We're ready to go. Every morning, in spite of himself, Matt kept an eye out for Etienne. So he's still looking for Etienne, even though we don't know that Etienne's coming back. When 4 days had gone by, he decided there was little chance that he would see his friend again. So it's been 4 days. He just doesn't think Etienne's going to come. Doubtless the Indians had already left the village and were on their way north. So when he saw Etienne coming through the woods with his dog at his heels, he ran across the clearing to meet him, not bothering to hide his relief and pleasure. You think different? Etienne asked quickly. You go with us? Matt's eagerness died away. No, he said unhappily. Please try to understand, Etienne. I must wait for my father. Etienne nodded. I understand, he said. My grandfather understand too. I do same for my father if he still live. The two boys stood looking at each other. There was no amusement and no scorn in Etienne's eyes. How very strange, Matt thought. After all the brave deeds he had dreamed of to win the boys' respect, he had gained it at last just by doing nothing, just by staying here and refusing to leave. So remember, he was always trying to gain Etienne's respect, like by snaring the animals, whatever he did. He was always trying to get Etienne to be like, yes, good job. And here he gained Etienne's respect just because he said, I can't leave the cabin. I need to stay here because my family is going to come. And that made Etienne really respect his decision. Etienne said, yep, I would do the same thing. I understand. And he said, Saknas understands too. My grandfather send you gift, Etienne said now. He unstrapped from his pack a pair of snowshoes. They were new, the wood smooth and polished, the netting of deer hide woven in a neat design. Before Matt could find words, Etienne went on. My grandmother send gift, he said. Now remember, his grandmother does not like white men. Do you remember why? Because white men killed her daughter, Etienne's mother. And so, of course, she did not like white man. But Matt has kind of weaseled his way, or not weaseled his way, but snuck his way into her heart. She feels affectionately for him. She knows he's alone. And he helped save Etienne's dog. He seems like a nice kid. Okay, again, you can't always judge people. My grandmother send gift, he said. He took from his pouch a small birch basket of maple sugar. late in the season like this, Matt knew sugar was scarce and dear to the Indians. Now remember how much Matt loves sugar. He loves the sugar, so to get this is a real treat. "Thank you," he said. "Tell your grandmother that when you come back, I'll help gather more sap for her." So Matt's like, "I'll help your grandma gather the sap." Etienne was silent. "Not come back," he said then. "Well, in the spring, I mean, when the hunt is over." "Not come back," Etienne repeated. "Not live in village again. Our people find new hunting ground." "But this is your home." "My people hunters. My grandfather say many white men come soon. Cut down trees, make house, plant corn. Where my people hunt." What could Matt answer to this? He had only one argument to offer. "Your grandfather wants you to learn to read," he reminded Etienne. "I haven't been much of a teacher, but when my family comes, it will be different. My mother will teach you to read and to write too." So Matt's trying anything to get Etienne to come back. "What for I read? My grandfather mighty hunter. My father mighty hunter. They not read." "Your grandfather wants you to be able to understand treaties," Matt insisted. "We go far away. No more white man. No, not need to sign paper." So Etienne saying, "We're going really far away. There will be no white men. I don't need to know how to read white man's language." An uncomfortable doubt had long been troubling Matt. Now, before Etienne went away, he had to know. "This land," he said slowly, "this place where my father built his cabin, did it belong to your grandfather? Did he own it once?" "How one man own ground?" Etienne questioned. So Etienne's like, how can you own the ground?" "Well, my father owns it now. He bought it." "I not understand," Etienne scowled. "How can man own land? Land same as air. Land for all people to live on, for beaver and deer. Does deer own land?" How could you explain, Matt wondered, to someone who did not want to understand? Somewhere in the back of his mind there was a sudden suspicion that Etienne was making sense, and he was not. It was better not to talk about it. Instead he asked, "Where will you go?" "My grandfather say much forest where sun go down. White man not come so far. Where sun go down." Now where would that be? Where does the sun set? In the west. So they're going out west where they're, at this time in 1768, is there's always lots of land out there and not a whole lot of people. To the west. Matt had heard his father talk about the west. There was good land there for the taking. Some of their neighbors in Quincy had chosen to go west instead of buying land in Maine. How could he tell Etienne that there would be white men there too? Still, they said there was no end of land in the west. He reckoned there must be enough for both white men and Indians. Before he could think what to say, Etienne spoke again. "I give you gift," he said. "Dog like you. I tell him, stay with you." "You mean you're not taking him with you?" "No good for hunt," Etienne said. "Walk slow now. Good for stay here with Medabi, with white brother." Okay, now a couple things here. You know how much Etienne loves that dog. He would always say he was good for nothing and ugly and everything else, but you know Etienne loved that dog. And for him to give the dog to Matt, oh my gosh, that was huge, huge. And then another thing, Etienne called him Medabi, his white brother. Wow, he called him his white brother. What a compliment. Etienne's careless words did not deceive Matt. He knew very well how Etienne felt about that no-good dog that followed him everywhere he went. And Etienne had said white brother. Oh my gosh, that just made Matt feel fabulous. Matt could not find the words he needed, but he knew there was something he must do. He had to have a gift for Etienne, and he had nothing to give, nothing at all that belonged to him. Robinson Crusoe? What could that mean to a boy who would never now learn to read it? He did have one thing. Can you remember one thing he might have? At the thought of it, something twisted tight in his stomach, but it was the only thing he had that could possibly match the gifts Etienne had given him. Think of everything, not just the tangible gifts, not just the gifts that Matt could hold, but the things that he learned from Etienne were huge. And so now Matt's saying, gosh, I need to repay you somehow. What could I give Think way back to the beginning of the story. Wait here, he told Etienne. He went into the cabin and took down the tin box. The watch was ticking away inside it. He had never forgotten to wind it, even when he was too tired to notch a stick. So that's how much it means to him. He never forgot to wind it. He sometimes wouldn't put a notch on a stick, but he always remembered to wind that watch because that's what his pa had told him. And remember, it was his grandfather's watch, so it has very special meaning to him. Now he lifted it out and held it in his hand the way he had held it when his father had given it to him, as though it were a fragile bird's egg. His father would never understand. Before he could think about it another minute, Matt hurried back to where Etienne stood waiting. I have a gift for you, he said. It tells the time of the day. I'll show you how to wind it up. Etienne held the watch even more carefully, so Etienne realizes how special it is. He's holding it very carefully. There was no mistaking that he was pleased and impressed. Probably Matt thought Etienne would never learn to use it. The sun and the shadows of the trees told him all he needed to know about the time of day. But Etienne knew that Matt's gift was important. Fine gift, he said. He put the watch very gently into his pouch. Then he held out his hand. Awkwardly, the two boys shook hands. Your father comes soon, Etienne said. Gosh, I am not going to cry. I hope you get the biggest moose in Maine, Matt answered. Etienne turned and walked into the woods. The dog sprang up to follow him. Etienne motioned him back and uttered one stern order. Puzzled, the dog sank down and put his chin between his paws. As Etienne walked away, he whined softly, but he obeyed. Matt knelt down and put his hand on the dog's head. Okay, so Etienne's leaving. The dog was assuming he would follow Etienne like he always did, but Etienne said, no, you stay here, you're Matt's now. And so, oh my gosh. Matt put his hand on the dog's head, and he knew he was staying there. Okay, gosh. I apologize. It's just because I'm a mom and I think about that. Okay. So Etienne now is leaving, for good. He's left his dog. He brought maple sugar, snowshoes, and the dog, of course. And then Matt gave him the very special watch that was his grandfather's. Okay, so write your chapter summary and take your time with it. A few of you are doing a fabulous job. Many of you, not so great. Put a little effort into it, okay? Mom and Dad shouldn't have to watch over your shoulder. You know what I expect you to do. This is stuff you can do all on your own, and I expect you to do it, okay? Good pictures. Okay, really going to try to hold it together for chapter 23. All right, have a fabulous day. Work hard, do your best, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye.